He was buried in darkness beneath the ceremony hall, until Lycan King's instinct dragged him below. Before we continue with the story, tell us where you're watching from and how old you are. I hope you enjoy the story. The ceremony hall blazed with golden light, and the laughter of wolves who knew nothing of the girl dying beneath their feet. Chandeliers dripped crystal tears onto marble floors where alphas and their chosen mates danced to celebrate the kingdom's prosperity. The air hummed with music and wine and the satisfied growls of those who belonged. But Daemon Kingswell, Lycan King of the Northern Territories, stood apart from it all, his jaw clenched tight enough to shatter bone. Something was wrong. The instinct crawled beneath his skin like a living thing, urgent and unrelenting. His wolf clawed at the edges of his consciousness, howling a warning that made no sense. Around him, pack leaders toasted his reign, their eyes glittering with ambition and false loyalty. He forced his expression into something resembling civility, but his attention had fractured. The room felt suffocating despite its grandeur. The scent of perfume and roasted meat turned acrid in his lungs. Then he felt it, a pull so visceral it nearly drove him to his knees. His head snapped toward the eastern wall where tapestries hung like heavy curtains over stone. No one else noticed. No one else felt the thread of anguish winding through the air, thin as spider silk and sharp as broken glass. His wolf surged forward, demanding, desperate. Daemon moved before thought could temper instinct. He crossed the hall with predatory grace, ignoring the voices that called his name, the hands that reached for his attention. His long black hair swept behind him as he pushed through the crowd, his tall frame casting shadows that seemed darker than they should be. Conversations died in his wake. Even the boldest wolves stepped aside when they saw the feral light in his eyes. The tapestries concealed a door, an old one, small and iron-bound, that no one had opened in decades. He gripped the handle and pulled. It resisted, groaning against rust and time. But he was a king, and kings did not yield. The metal bent beneath his strength. The door gave way with a scream. Stairs descended into blackness. The scent hit him like a fist to the chest. Blood, fear, and beneath it all, something else. Something that made his wolf keen with recognition. He took the steps 3 at a time, leaving the light and music behind. The darkness swallowed him whole, damp and cold and thick with the smell of earth and despair. His eyes adjusted quickly, sharpening into the golden glow of his beast. The passage was narrow, carved from stone that wept moisture. Chains hung from the walls like skeletal fingers. This was a place meant to be forgotten, a place where unwanted things were buried. At the bottom, in a chamber barely large enough to stand, he found her. She lay crumpled against the far wall, her pale skin luminous against the filth of the floor. Blonde hair spilled around her like liquid moonlight, matted with blood and dirt. Her dress, once white, now hung in tatters that barely preserved her modesty. Chains bound her wrists and ankles, the iron biting deep enough to leave wounds that should have healed but hadn't. She was so still that for one terrible moment he thought he was too late. Then her chest rose, a shallow, labored breath that rattled in her lungs. Daemon crossed the space between them in a heartbeat and dropped to his knees beside her. Up close, the scent of her nearly unmade him. Omega. She was an Omega, and not just any Omega. The bond snapped into place with such force it stole his breath. Mate. His mate. The word echoed through every cell of his body, ancient and absolute. Her eyes fluttered open. They were the color of storm clouds, gray and deep and filled with pain that no one so young should carry. She stared at him without recognition, without hope. Her lips moved, but no sound emerged. Daemon's hands shook as he reached for her chains. The iron burned his palms, laced with silver to suppress healing. Rage detonated in his chest. Who had done this? Who had dared to chain and break this fragile creature who belonged to him, who was his to protect? The metal snapped under his grip like brittle bone. He tore the restraints away and gathered her into his arms as gently as his trembling hands allowed. She weighed nothing. Her body was a collection of sharp angles and hollows, starved and beaten until only the barest spark of life remained. Her head lolled against his chest. He could feel her heart struggling. A bird trapped against bars. "Get up," his wolf snarled. "Move." He stood, cradling her against him, and turned toward the stairs. Behind him, water dripped in the darkness. The sound followed him up, back toward the light and the living. His mind raced. Who had access to the hall? Who knew about this chamber? The questions would be answered. Every single one. And blood would flow. But first, she needed to live. He emerged from the passage into chaos. The guests had noticed his absence, and now they noticed his return. Conversations stopped mid-word. Music faltered and died. Every eye in the hall fixed on the girl in his arms, on the blood staining his clothes, on the murder written in his expression. Damon's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Find me healer Morgana. Now." 3 wolves scrambled to obey. The rest simply stared, their faces painted with shock and calculation. He could see the thoughts forming behind their eyes. An Omega. The King's Omega. The balance of power had just shifted. His second in command, a scarred warrior named Jackson, appeared at his elbow. "My king, what happened?" "Someone will answer for this," Damon said softly. The quiet in his tone made it a promise of violence. "Seal the hall. No one leaves." Jackson's eyes widened, but he nodded sharply. "Understood." Damon didn't wait for more questions. He strode through the crowd with the girl held close to his chest. They parted before him like a sea. Wolves who minutes ago had been laughing and celebrating, now frozen in fear. He had been careful to cultivate his reputation as a leader who was fierce but fair. Tonight they remembered only the fierce. His private chambers occupied the highest tower of the castle, far from prying eyes and ambitious ears. He took the stairs at a pace that would have left ordinary men breathless. The girl in his arms stirred once, a soft whimper that tore through him worse than any weapon ever had. "I have you," he murmured, the words escaping before he could stop them. "You're safe now. I have you." If she heard, she gave no sign. Her breathing had grown more ragged, her skin burning with fever. Silver poisoning, he realized with cold dread. If it had been in her system too long, even an Omega's resilience might not be enough. His quarters were a stark contrast to the opulence below. The main room held simple furniture, a fireplace that crackled with low flames, and walls lined with books and weapons in equal measure. He crossed to his bedroom and laid her on the massive bed with infinite care. She looked impossibly small against the dark furs, a broken dove in a nest meant for a predator. He stepped back, his hands curling into fists at his sides. The urge to touch her, to soothe her, warred with the knowledge that she might wake terrified. He was a stranger, a male. The last thing she needed was another source of fear. The door crashed open. Morgana swept in, a woman of indeterminate age with silver-streaked hair and eyes that saw too much. She took one look at the bed and swore viciously. "Silver poisoning. How long?" "I don't know," Damon admitted. "Hours, maybe days." Morgana moved to the bedside with practiced efficiency. She pulled back the torn fabric of the girl's dress, revealing skin mottled with bruises, and the angry red welts left by silver-lace chains. More curses, sharper this time. She looked up at Damon, her expression grim. "If I don't get the silver out of her system soon, she won't survive the night. I need to work. Either help me or get out. Tell me what to do." The next hours blurred into a nightmare of blood and desperate measures. Morgana worked with the focused intensity of someone fighting death itself. She made poultices of herbs that burned when they touched silver-poisoned flesh. She forced bitter tinctures past cracked lips. She murmured old words in the language of healers while Damon held the girl down when her body convulsed, his strength keeping her from hurting herself further. Through it all, his wolf howled. The bond between them pulled tight as a garrote, flooding him with her pain until he couldn't tell where she ended and he began. It was agony. It was revelation. She was his, and she was dying, and there was nothing his strength or rage could do to stop it. Except there was one thing. "A bond this strong can work both ways," Morgana said quietly, watching him with ancient eyes. "If you mark her, The claim might give her enough strength to fight. But she hasn't consented. Hasn't even woken. It's a violation of the old laws. Then I'll face the consequences, Damon growled. Just save her. Morgana nodded slowly. Shift. Your wolf's healing will be stronger. Damon didn't hesitate. The change swept through him, bones reshaping and muscles expanding until the man gave way to the beast. His wolf was massive, black as midnight with eyes that burned gold. He lowered his head to the girl's neck, where her pulse fluttered weak and thready. For a moment, he simply breathed her in, memorizing her scent beneath the blood and fear. Then he bit down, gentle despite the predator's instinct to dominate. His teeth broke skin, and the bond roared to life. Power flooded between them, ancient and irrevocable. His life force poured into her fragile body, knitting torn flesh and burning away poison. Her back arched and a cry tore from her throat. But it was the sound of someone returning from the edge of death, not falling into it. The mark glowed silver white against her skin. Mine, his wolf snarled with satisfaction. Ours. He shifted back to human form, breathing hard, and saw her eyes flutter open for the first time with true awareness. They fixed on him, wide and disbelieving. Her hand rose shakily to touch the mark on her neck. What did you do? Her voice was a rasp, barely audible. Damon caught her wrist carefully, afraid his touch might break her. I saved your life, and now we're bound. I'm sorry. I had no choice. She stared at him for a long moment, those storm-gray eyes searching his face for something he couldn't name. Then consciousness slipped away again, and she fell into healing sleep. Morgana straightened, wiping blood from her hands. She'll live. The mark gave her what she needed. But recovery will take time. Weeks, maybe months. She's been starved and tortured, Damon. The damage goes deeper than flesh. Who would do this? He asked, though he wasn't sure he was asking Morgana or the gods themselves. The healer's expression darkened. Someone who knew exactly what she was. Omegas are rare. Unmated omegas even more so. There are wolves who would kill to possess one, and others who would kill to prevent a rival from claiming one. They'll wish for death before I'm done with them. I believe you. Morgana gathered her supplies. I'll return at dawn to check on her. Don't leave her alone. The fever may return, and the nightmares will be worse. After she left, Damon pulled a chair to the bedside and sat. He should have been interrogating suspects. Should have been tearing his castle apart to find who was responsible. But he couldn't make himself leave. Not when she lay so still, her blonde hair spread across his pillows like captured starlight. Not when the bond between them hummed with her every breath. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face with the back of his knuckles. Her skin was softer than anything he'd ever touched. Even in sleep, pain creased her brow. Who are you? He whispered. What happened to you? The fire crackled. Outside his windows, dawn began its slow climb into the sky. And Damon Kingswell, king of lichens, and the most feared wolf in 6 territories, kept vigil over the broken girl who fate had delivered into his hands. The girl who was his mate. The girl he would burn the world to protect. When Evelyn Darkrose woke again, the pain had receded to a dull roar. It was an improvement. She'd grown accustomed to agony over the past weeks, the kind that turned seconds into hours, and made her beg for unconsciousness. But this was different. This was bearable. Memory returned in fragments. The ceremony above. The guards who'd dragged her deeper into the darkness instead of setting her free as they'd promised. The silver chains. The last conscious thought that she would die alone in the dark, unmourned and forgotten. Then him. Her eyes opened slowly. The room that came into focus was nothing like the dungeon cell. Rich fabrics and deep colors. A fireplace large enough to stand in. Windows that let in soft afternoon light. And beside the bed, slumped in a chair that was too small for his frame, the man who'd carried her out of hell. He was asleep, or something close to it. His head rested against the chair back, long black hair falling across features that seemed carved from stone. Even in repose, he looked dangerous. Broad shoulders strained against his shirt, and his hands, resting on the chair arms, bore the scars of someone who'd fought and survived. But it was the exhaustion in his face that caught her. The shadows under his eyes. The tension that lingered even in sleep. Evelyn's hand rose to her neck, touching the mark she could feel pulsing with unfamiliar warmth. A claiming bite. She knew what it meant. Every wolf did. He'd marked her while she was unconscious, binding them together in a way that couldn't be undone. She should have been terrified, should have been furious. Instead, she felt safe. The sensation was so foreign she almost didn't recognize it. Safety. When had she last felt that? The man's eyes opened. Golden. They were golden, the color of a wolf's gaze. They fixed on her with an intensity that should have made her flinch, but she found she couldn't look away. "You're awake." His voice was rough with sleep, and something else. Relief, maybe. "How do you feel?" "Like I should be dead," she admitted. Her own voice sounded strange to her ears, scraped raw from screaming. "Why am I not?" "Because I found you." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, keeping distance between them despite the bond she could feel pulling taut. "Because you're stronger than whoever tried to break you. And because you're mine now, whether either of us planned it or not. I don't even know your name. Damon Kingswell. I'm the Lichen King." The words escaped her in a whisper. She'd heard of him, of course. Everyone had. The young king who'd unified the fractured packs through a combination of tactical brilliance and raw power. The wolf who showed no mercy to his enemies but inspired fanatical loyalty from his followers. She'd never imagined she'd meet him, much less wake up in his bed wearing his mark. "And you are?" he prompted gently. "Evelyn Darkrose." She hesitated, then added, "I'm nobody. An Omega without a pack." Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, but not directed at her. "You're not nobody. Not anymore. You're my mate. That makes you queen of the Northern Territories." The words hung in the air between them, impossible and true. Evelyn tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through her ribs, sharp enough to steal her breath. Damon moved before she could blink, his hands steadying her with surprising gentleness. "Easy. You're still healing. Don't push it." His touch was warm through the thin fabric of the nightgown someone had dressed her in. She looked down at herself, at the bandages visible beneath the white cloth, at the fading bruises that still painted her skin in shades of purple and green. How long was I down there? Damon's jaw clenched. "I don't know yet, but I will find out. I will find everyone responsible, and they will suffer." The cold certainty in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it kindled something in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or vengeance. The two felt remarkably similar. "I should remember more," she said softly. "But it's all pieces. I remember being at a pack gathering, my old pack before they exiled me. Then darkness. Pain. Guards who came sometimes with water that tasted wrong. Everything else is shadows." "The water was drugged," Damon said grimly. "To keep you weak. To keep you from healing. Someone wanted you alive but broken. Why? I'm nothing. Nobody would gain anything from hurting me." He studied her for a long moment, those golden eyes seeming to see straight through her skin to the truth beneath. "You really don't know, do you? What you are? An Omega. The lowest rank. Worth less than—" "Stop." The word cracked like a whip. His hand cupped her chin, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. "I don't know what lies you've been told, Evelyn Darkrose, but you will not repeat them in my presence. Omegas are rare, precious. The old stories say they're blessed by the moon herself. Any pack would consider it an honor to have you. The fact that yours exiled you tells me everything I need to know about their worth." Tears burned behind her eyes. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be defended, to have someone speak of her as though she mattered. She tried to look away, but he held her gaze, gentle but unyielding. "I marked you without permission," he continued, his voice dropping lower. "That was wrong. If you want me to petition the council to break the bond, I will." I won't force you to stay bound to me. But while you're here, while you're healing, no one will hurt you again. That, I promise on my life." The tears fell then, hot trails down her cheeks. She didn't have words for what she was feeling. Terror and relief and disbelief all tangled together. Damon's thumb brushed away her tears with a tenderness that seemed impossible from someone so clearly built for violence. "Don't cry," he murmured. "Please. I can face any enemy, survive any battle, but tears unmake me." A laugh bubbled up from her chest, watery and startled. The absurdity of it. The Lycan King, feared by nations, brought low by tears. "You barely know me. I know enough. You survived what would have killed others. You didn't break even when they tried to shatter you. And when I found you in the dark, do you know what I felt?" She shook her head, unable to speak. Home. For the first time in my life, I felt like I'd found something I'd been searching for, without knowing I was looking. The bond isn't just about marking Evelyn. It's recognition. My soul knew yours before my eyes ever saw your face. The words settled into her like stones thrown into deep water, rippling outward. She wanted to believe him. Gods, how she wanted to believe. But trust was a luxury she'd learned to live without. "I need time," she whispered, "to understand this, to understand you." "Take all the time you need." Damon released her chin and sat back, putting distance between them again. "I'll have food brought up. You need to eat, rebuild your strength. And then, when you're ready, we'll find out who did this to you. Together." The promise in that word, together, did something dangerous to her heart. Over the following days, Evelyn began to understand that her life had been divided into before and after, with that moment in the darkness serving as the border between them. Before, she'd been invisible, discarded, taught to believe she was worth nothing. After, she was the center of the most powerful wolf's attention, treated as though she were made of spun glass and starlight. Damon was patient in a way that contradicted everything she'd heard about him. He brought her meals himself, rather than send servants, sitting beside the bed while she ate and telling her stories about the kingdom. He never touched her without asking permission first, and when she flinched at sudden movements, he simply slowed down, made himself smaller, less threatening. The third morning after she'd woken, he arrived with breakfast and found her attempting to brush her own hair. Her arms shook with the effort, still weak from weeks of captivity. Without a word, he set the tray aside and took the brush from her trembling fingers. "May I?" She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. No one had ever offered to care for her in such an intimate way. He settled behind her on the bed, careful to leave space between them, and began working through the tangles with infinite patience. His touch was so gentle it brought tears to her eyes. "Your hair is beautiful," he murmured, like captured moonlight. "It's a mess. It's been through hell and still shines, rather like its owner." She felt her cheeks warm. "You don't have to do this. I'm sure a king has more important things to attend to than brushing an Omega's hair." His hand stilled. "Look at me." She turned, meeting those golden eyes over her shoulder. "You are not just an Omega. You're my mate, my destined partner. And right now, in this moment, there is nothing more important in all my kingdom than making sure you're cared for. Do you understand?" The intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. "I'm trying to. Then let me help you try." He resumed brushing, his voice soft. "Tell me about yourself, about who you were before all of this." She hesitated. "There's not much to tell. I was born into the Dark Rose Pack. My mother died when I was young. My father remarried and my stepmother made it clear I was a burden. When I presented as Omega, things got worse. Worse how? They kept me hidden. Omegas are supposed to be treasures, but to them, I was a liability. Too weak to be useful, too valuable to discard carelessly. When I turned 18, they exiled me under the pretense of giving me freedom. Really, they just wanted me gone." Damon's hands moved to her shoulders, kneading gently. "And you believed them when they said you were worthless, wouldn't you?" If everyone you'd ever known treated you like a burden, like something to be ashamed of? No. His voice was firm, because I would know they were wrong. But I had the luxury of strength, of a rank that demanded respect. You had none of that. So you survived the only way you could, by making yourself small and hoping the world would forget you existed. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You understand. More than you know. He turned her gently to face him, brushing away her tears. I was 7 when my father was killed in a challenge, too young to hold the throne, so the council appointed a regent. He was cruel, saw me as competition, even though I was just a child. He tried to break me, to make me weak so I'd never threaten his power. What did you do? I survived. I learned to hide my strength, to seem harmless until I was old enough to fight back. And when that day came, I made sure everyone knew that Damon Kingswell bows to no one. She reached up, touching his face. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster, maybe. The stories they tell about you are terrifying. Good. Let them be terrified. Let my enemies lose sleep wondering when I'll come for them. But you? His thumb traced her lower lip. You never have to fear me. With you, I'm just a man who's grateful beyond words, that fate led him into that darkness to find you. The kiss happened slowly, a gradual closing of distance that gave her every opportunity to pull away. When their lips finally met, it was soft and questioning, a hello rather than a claim. She felt the bond between them pulse with warmth, felt his wolf reaching for hers in a way that was tender rather than dominant. When they parted, both breathless, Damon rested his forehead against hers. I could get addicted to that. Then it's fortunate we have forever. Forever, he echoed, and the words sounded like a prayer. But she saw the other side of him too. Through the windows of his chamber, she heard him with his warriors. His voice would change, shedding all warmth to become the cold instrument of command. She watched once as he disciplined a guard who'd been caught stealing, and the fury in his eyes was terrible to behold. The man had been stripped of rank and banished before he could even stutter an excuse. This dichotomy fascinated her. He was 2 wolves in one skin, the gentle protector and the merciless king. As the days passed and her strength returned, Damon began taking her on walks through the castle grounds. He'd offer his arm and she'd take it, marveling at the way wolves who'd once looked through her now bowed with respect. The first time someone addressed her as my queen, she nearly stumbled. That night, she confronted him about it. You told them we're married. Mated, he corrected. The bond is as binding as any ceremony. But if you want the formalities, we can have those too. Whatever makes you comfortable. She sat on the edge of the bed, watching him bank the fire. Why me, Damon? You could have anyone. Someone stronger, more educated, more suitable to be a queen. He crossed to her and knelt, putting them at eye level. Because fate chose you. Because when I found you in that darkness, something in me recognized something in you. Because every moment I spend with you makes me believe in things I thought were myths. Like what? Like love that transcends logic. Like the idea that 2 broken pieces can fit together and make something whole. He took her hands. You think you're not suitable? Evelyn, you survived what would have destroyed most wolves. You kept your kindness even after the world showed you cruelty. You're exactly who I need, who I want. She leaned forward, kissing him with more confidence than before. The kiss deepened, his hands coming up to frame her face while hers fisted in his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Stay with me tonight, she whispered. Not in the chair. Here. Are you sure? I'm sure that I don't want to be alone, that I feel safest when you're near, that whatever this bond is between us, I want to explore it. With you. He searched her face, looking for any hint of doubt. Finding none, he nodded slowly. Then I'll stay. Always. They lay together that night, her back tucked against his chest, his arm draped protectively over her waist. She felt his heartbeat steady and strong against her spine, felt his breath warm against her neck. For the first time since her captivity began, she slept without nightmares. In the morning, she woke to find him watching her, those golden eyes soft with an emotion she was learning to recognize. "Good morning," he murmured, brushing hair from her face. "Good morning." She smiled, stretching like a cat. "I slept well. I know. You snore. I do not." He grinned, and the expression transformed his face from severe to boyish. "You absolutely do. It's adorable." She swatted his chest playfully. "Take it back. Make me." The challenge hung between them, playful and charged. She leaned in, kissing him slowly, thoroughly, until he groaned against her mouth. His hands slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. The world narrowed to just them, just this moment, just the heat building between their bodies. When she pulled back, his eyes had gone molten gold. "Evelyn, if you keep kissing me like that, I won't be responsible for what happens next. Maybe I'm counting on it." His control was legendary, but she watched it fracture. With a growl that was more wolf than man, he rolled her beneath him, careful despite his urgency. "Is this what you want? Tell me clearly, because once I start, I won't want to stop." "I want you," she said simply. "All of you. The king and the man and the wolf. I want everything." What followed was slow and reverent, a claiming that was mutual and complete. He learned her body like a map to treasure, finding every place that made her gasp and sigh. She explored his scars, kissing each one, learning the story of violence and survival written on his skin. When they finally joined, it felt like the bond snapping fully into place, two souls merging into one. Afterward, tangled together in sheets damp with effort, Damon held her close and whispered promises against her skin. "I'll protect you, cherish you, stand beside you against anything that comes. You're mine now, Evelyn Kingswell, in every way that matters. And you're mine," she whispered back, "my fierce king with the gentle heart, my savior and my equal. Always," he promised. "In this life and every life after, I'll find you in the darkness and drag you into the light." She believed him. One evening, nearly a week after she'd woken, Damon arrived at the chambers with fresh bruises on his knuckles. Evelyn was sitting by the window, finally strong enough to move around the room. She saw the blood and was on her feet before thought caught up to instinct. "You're hurt." He glanced down at his hands as though only just noticing. "It's nothing. Training accident." "Liar." She crossed to him, emboldened by days of his gentleness. "Let me see." To her surprise, he extended his hands without argument. She took them carefully, examining the split skin across his knuckles. "Someone's face met your fists. Was it about me?" Damon's silence was answer enough. She looked up at him. This tall, dangerous man who'd turned herself inside out to make her feel safe. Who was it? A pack leader from the south. He made comments about your presence here, about what an Omega might be good for. He won't make that mistake again. Darkness colored his tone, but when he looked at her, his eyes softened. "I know you can heal yourself now that the silver is out of your system, but it would mean a great deal if you would help me. Your touch is far preferable to Morgana's scolding." Evelyn felt heat rise in her cheeks. She fetched water and clean cloth, then returned to carefully clean his wounds. His hands were enormous compared to hers, scarred and calloused. The hands of a warrior, but they stayed perfectly still under her ministrations, patient as stone. "You can't fight everyone who speaks badly of me," she said quietly. "There will be too many. Watch me." The simple conviction in those two words made her chest tight. She finished binding his knuckles and found herself still holding his hands, unable to let go. The mark on her neck pulsed with warmth. She brought his knuckles to her lips, pressing a soft kiss to the bandages. "My fierce protector." His breath caught. "Evelyn, I know you think you need to shelter me from everything, but I'm stronger than I look, stronger than even I knew. And I think," she met his gaze, her voice dropping to a whisper, "I think I'm falling in love with you." The words hung between them, vulnerable and true. Damon's expression transformed, wonder and relief, and something deeper flooding his features. He cupped her face with his bandaged hands, infinitely gentle. You think? There was no mockery in his tone, only tenderness. Because I know. I've known since the moment I found you in that darkness. I love you, Evelyn Darkrose, with everything I am. The kiss was different this time. Deeper. More sure. A claiming and a promise wrapped into one. She melted against him, her fingers tangling in his long black hair, pulling him closer. His arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her until her feet left the ground, holding her as though she weighed nothing. When they finally broke for air, he set her down carefully, keeping her close. I never believed in the mate bond before, he admitted. Thought it was just instinct dressed up as destiny. But with you, I understand. You're not just my mate. You're my choice. Every day, I choose you. And I choose you, she whispered back. My king. My savior. My love. They stood together in the firelight, foreheads touching, breathing in sync. Outside, the castle bustled with evening activity. But in this moment, the world had narrowed to just them. The following days brought a shift in their relationship. The careful distance Damon had maintained began to dissolve. He started taking her to council meetings, insisting she sit beside him, her opinion valued. When pack leaders questioned her presence, his response was swift and uncompromising. This is my mate and your future queen. If you have concerns, voice them now so I can decide if you're worth keeping in my service. No one voiced concerns. Evelyn found herself growing into the role. She spoke up when she saw injustice, proposed reforms that protected the vulnerable. And Damon, fierce and unyielding with everyone else, listened to her with complete attention. More than once, she watched him change his position after hearing her perspective, watched him choose compassion over convenience because she'd shown him another way. One afternoon, he took her to the castle library, a vast room filled with books from floor to ceiling. I thought you might like this, a place that's yours, somewhere you can go when the court becomes too much. She wandered between the shelves, trailing her fingers over leather spines. It's beautiful. So are you. She turned to find him watching her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Even in a simple dress, covered in dust from the dungeons, barely healed from silver poisoning, you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Now, healthy and happy, you take my breath away. Damon Kingswell, are you trying to seduce me in a library? Is it working? She crossed to him, rising on her toes to whisper against his lips. Absolutely. What followed was heated and desperate, books tumbling from shelves as he lifted her onto a desk, his mouth claiming hers with a hunger that spoke of days of restraint breaking. Her legs wrapped around his waist, pulling him closer, needing to feel every inch of him against her. Evelyn, he groaned against her throat. We should stop. This isn't appropriate for a queen. Then it's fortunate I'm not a queen yet. She pulled his head back, meeting his molten gold gaze. I'm just a woman who loves you, who wants you. Make love to me, Damon. Here. Now. His control shattered. He took her there among the books and dust motes dancing in afternoon light, and it was perfect. Desperate and tender all at once, a celebration of their bond and their love, and the future they were building together. Afterward, tangled together on the floor with his coat as a blanket, Evelyn traced lazy patterns on his chest. Do you ever regret it? Finding me? Your life would be simpler without me. My life would be empty without you. He caught her hand, kissing her fingertips. You ask if I regret finding you? Evelyn, finding you saved me. I was becoming the monster everyone feared. Cold, brutal, alone. You reminded me what it means to be human, what it means to love. I should be asking if you regret being found. Never. She propped herself up on his chest, looking down at him. You gave me everything. A home. A purpose. Love. You made me believe I was worth something. You are worth everything. His hand cupped her face. And I will spend every day of my life proving that to you. Damon, I need to tell you something. He waited, golden eyes patient. I remember more now. About what happened. I was at the gathering because my old alpha summoned me. Said he'd reconsidered the exile, that I could come home. But it was a trap. He sold me to someone. I don't know who. I never saw their face. But I heard them talking. They said I was leverage, that when you finally chose a queen, they'd reveal they had me, and you'd be forced to negotiate. Damon's expression went deadly still. They knew you were my mate before I did. How is that possible? Seers. There are wolves who can read the threads of fate. If someone wanted to control me badly enough, they might have sought one out, learned who I was destined for. Then all they had to do was get to you first, to use me as a weapon against you. Yes. She pulled back, wrapping her arms around herself despite her nakedness. I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I'd been stronger, if I'd fought harder. Stop. He sat up, pulling her back against him. None of this is your fault. You're a victim, Evelyn, not a co-conspirator. And they failed. You're here. You're safe. You're mine. Whatever they planned, it dies with them. His vehemence shocked her. But more than that, the way he'd said mine, as though she were a treasure, as though losing her would unmake him. She turned in his arms, touching his face. His stubble rasped against her palm. He went utterly still, barely breathing, giving her total control of the moment. Thank you, she whispered, for finding me, for saving me, for loving me. Always. His hand covered hers, holding it against his cheek. I will always find you. That's what mates do. What people who love each other do. She'd never had anyone promise her always before. The word was bright and terrifying, but looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute truth written there, she knew she believed it. Tell me you feel it too, he whispered. Tell me I'm not alone in this. You're not alone, she promised. Neither of us is. Not anymore. I love you, Damon Kingswell. With everything I am, and everything I'll become. As autumn painted the kingdom in shades of amber and gold, Evelyn's strength returned. With it came questions that demanded answers. Damon had promised to find those responsible for her imprisonment, and he was a king who kept his promises. The investigation began with her old pack. Damon summoned Alpha Marcus Darkrose to the capital under the guise of a political meeting. Evelyn watched from behind a hidden panel as her former Alpha entered the throne room, arrogance and false confidence radiating from him like cheap cologne. Alpha Marcus, Damon's voice echoed through the chamber, cold as winter stone. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Marcus bowed, but there was calculation in his eyes. The honor is mine, my king. How may I serve? Damon descended from his throne with predatory grace. You can start by telling me why you sold your Pax Omega to my enemies. The color drained from Marcus's face. My king, I don't know what you... Don't insult me with lies. His voice dropped to a lethal whisper. I've had weeks to gather evidence. Weeks to trace the silver chains that bound her to the merchants who sold them. Weeks to follow the money back to your accounts. Did you really think I wouldn't find you? Marcus's composure cracked. She was nothing. An Omega with no value. I was approached with an offer I couldn't refuse. So you sold her. Damon circled him like a wolf circling prey. You sold your own pack member to be tortured and broken. And for what? Gold? Political favor? What was worth betraying someone who trusted you for protection? She was exiled. She had no rights. She was under your protection until the moment you cast her out. And even then, even exiled, she deserved better than to be sold like cattle. Damon stopped directly in front of Marcus, towering over him. But your worst crime wasn't betraying her. It was betraying me. Because that Omega you sold, she's my mate. She's your queen. And you tried to destroy her. Behind the panel, Evelyn pressed her hand to her mouth. Hearing him defend her so fiercely, hearing him claim her before his court, made something crack open in her chest. Marcus fell to his knees. My king, I didn't know. If I'd known she was your destined mate, I never would have... That makes it worse, not better. Damon's voice could have cut glass. You sold her because you thought she was worthless, because she was an Omega, and you deemed her beneath your protection. That tells me everything about your character. Please. Mercy. You want mercy? Damon leaned down, his voice dropping so low that Evelyn had to strain to hear. The mercy you showed her when you threw her to the wolves? The mercy you showed when you let them chain her and starve her and break her? That mercy? Marcus had no answer. Daemon straightened. You're stripped of your title. Your lands are forfeit. Your pack will be absorbed into the crown territories where they'll be treated with the dignity you failed to show them. As for you, you have until sunset to be gone from my kingdom. If I see your face again, I won't be responsible for what my wolf does to you. Guards hauled Marcus away, his protests fading into the distance. The court erupted in whispers. Evelyn slipped from her hiding spot and made her way to the throne room's main entrance. She needed, to see Daemon in the aftermath. She found him still standing in the center of the room, his back to the door, tension radiating from every line of his body. The courtiers had cleared out quickly, sensing their king needed space. Daemon. He turned at her voice, and the look on his face stole her breath. Fury and anguish warred there. The careful control he maintained for others stripped away. Was that enough? He asked roughly. Tell me that was enough. That seeing him broken gives you some measure of peace. Because I want to hunt him down and finish what I started. She crossed to him quickly. It's enough. More than enough. She took his hands, feeling them tremble. You gave me something I thought I'd never have. Justice. Vindication. You made him see that I mattered. That's everything. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her with careful strength. I wanted to kill him. My wolf screamed for his blood. I know. She pressed her face against his chest, hearing his heart thunder. But you didn't. You showed mercy even when he didn't deserve it. That's why you're a good king. I'm not good, Evelyn. I'm ruthless. I'm brutal. The things I've done, the enemies I've made. And yet with me, you're gentle. With me, you're patient and kind and everything I thought I'd never find. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. You contain multitudes, Daemon Kingswell. You're allowed to be both fierce and tender. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you whole. His expression softened, the rage draining away to leave something more vulnerable. How do you do that? How do you see the best in me when I'm drowning in the worst? Because you saved me. And not just from the darkness beneath the ceremony hall. You saved me from believing I was worthless. From believing I deserved what happened to me. She reached up, touching his face. You gave me back myself. Let me do the same for you. The kiss was different this time. Deeper. More desperate. A claiming and a surrender all at once. When they finally broke apart, Daemon rested his forehead against hers, breathing hard. Marry me, he whispered. Not because the bond demands it, not because custom requires it, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Because you're the other half of my soul. Marry me, Evelyn Darkrose. Be my queen in truth. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but these were tears of joy. Yes. 1,000 times. Yes. But Marcus was only the beginning. The investigation continued, peeling back layers of conspiracy that ran deeper than anyone had guessed. More names surfaced. Pack leaders who'd known about the plot, merchants who'd supplied the silver chains, guards who'd been bribed to keep quiet, and at the center of it all, a name that made even Daemon pause. Selene Nightshade, one of his own court, a high-ranking noble with ambitions of queenhood. The confrontation happened in private, in a room warded against eavesdropping. Selene stood before Daemon with her head high, defiant even in the face of certain doom. You wanted the throne, Daemon said flatly. You thought if you could control my mate, you could control me. You were too strong to manipulate directly, Selene replied coolly. Too smart, but even the strongest wolf has a weakness. I simply sought to identify and exploit yours. By torturing an innocent girl? By attempting to break her so completely that I'd have no choice but to negotiate for her release? She was a means to an end. Nothing personal. Evelyn, watching from her position beside Daemon's throne, felt rage flare hot and bright. She stood, drawing Selene's attention. You chained me in the dark, starved me, let silver eat into my skin until I prayed for death. And you call that nothing personal? Selene's lip curled. You're an Omega. You should have known your place. Instead, you dared to be destined for a king. That was your crime. No. Damon's voice cut like a blade. Her only crime was existing in a world where wolves like you feel entitled to destroy what you can't possess. He rose, descending the dais with lethal purpose. You wanted to be queen? You wanted to stand at my side and rule this kingdom? Let me tell you what queens are made of. Selene Nightshade. They're made of strength and compassion, and grace under fire. They endure suffering and emerge stronger. They protect the weak instead of exploiting them. He stopped directly before her. Evelyn is everything a queen should be. You're everything a queen should never be. And you will never set foot in my court again. Selene's composure cracked. You're making a mistake. She's weak. She'll make you weak. No, Evelyn said softly, rising and moving to stand beside Damon. He makes me strong, and I make him better. That's what mates do. That's what you'll never understand. Damon's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. Guards, take her to the border and banish her. If she returns, execute her. As Selene was dragged away, screaming threats and curses, Evelyn felt something settle in her chest. Closure. The demons of her past had been faced and conquered. She was free. That night, alone in their chambers, Damon pulled her close. It's over, he murmured against her hair. Everyone who hurt you has been dealt with. You're safe now. Truly safe. Thanks to you. Thanks to us. He tilted her chin up. You were brave, Evelyn, facing them, refusing to hide. I'm in awe of you. I had a good teacher. She smiled up at him. You showed me that being strong doesn't mean being hard. That vulnerability can coexist with courage. Learn something new from you every day. His thumb traced her jawline. Are you ready for tomorrow? The wedding? Terror and excitement tangled in her stomach. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. He pulled her to the bed, settling against the headboard with her cradled between his legs, her back to his chest. This position had become their comfort, the way they found peace after difficult days. His arms wrapped around her waist, holding her secure. Tell me what you're thinking, he murmured against her hair. That I'm scared. Not of marrying you, but of everything it represents. I'll be queen. People will look to me for guidance, for strength. What if I'm not enough? His arms tightened. You're already enough. More than enough. But if you're asking if being queen is easy, it's not. There will be days when you question every decision. Days when you feel the weight of the crown crushing you. But you won't face those days alone. I'll be there. Always. She turned her head, pressing a kiss to his jaw. How did I get so lucky? Luck had nothing to do with it. This was fate. Destiny. The universe correcting itself to bring us together. His hand splayed across her stomach, warm and possessive. I believe we were always meant to find each other. Every hardship, every struggle. It was all leading us to that moment in the darkness. You really believe that? With everything I am. He turned her in his arms, needing to see her face. Before you, I was half a person pretending to be whole. I ruled with strength but no heart. I conquered but never connected. You changed everything. You made me want to be better. Not because I wasn't enough, but because you inspired me to grow. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I love you. I know I've said it before, but I need you to understand how much. You're not just my mate or my king. You're my home, my safe place, my heart, and you're mine. He kissed her softly, reverently. My mate, my queen, my salvation. They made love slowly that night, taking time to memorize each other's bodies, to worship every inch of skin. Evelyn traced his scars with her lips, learning the story of each one. Damon mapped her body with his hands, finding every place that made her gasp and sigh his name. When they finally joined, it was with a tenderness that brought tears to both their eyes. This wasn't just physical. It was communion, two souls merging into one. The bond between them blazed bright, a living thing that pulsed with their combined heartbeats. Afterward, tangled in sheets damp with effort, Damon held her close, one hand stroking her hair, while the other traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "I want to tell you something," he said quietly. "Something I've never told anyone." She propped herself up, giving him her full attention. "I'm listening. When I was young, after my father died, I used to have nightmares. I'd dream I was drowning in darkness, that no one could hear me screaming. The regent told me it was weakness, that a king should never fear the dark. So I learned to hide it, to pretend I was fearless even when I was terrified. Oh, Damon. But when I found you in that chamber, when I saw you in the darkness, something shifted. It was like the universe was showing me that fear has a purpose. It drives us to protect what matters, to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. You turned my greatest fear into my greatest triumph." She kissed him deeply, pouring every ounce of love she felt into the gesture. "Thank you for trusting me with that, for letting me see the man beneath the crown. Always. There are no secrets between us, no walls. You have all of me, Evelyn. The king and the man and the wolf, every broken piece and every strength. It's all yours, and you have all of me." She settled back against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Every fear and every hope, every dream I thought I'd lost. You gave it all back to me, and added more than I ever imagined." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, two souls that had found their other half against impossible odds. The wedding of a Lycan king was traditionally a grand affair, a spectacle of political alliance and pack unity, but Damon had thrown tradition aside. They married at dawn in a small clearing in the forest, where ancient trees stood witness. Only their closest friends attended, wolves who'd proven their loyalty beyond doubt. Evelyn wore a dress of pale blue silk that moved like water, her blonde hair crowned with frost flowers that Damon had gathered himself before sunrise. Morgana had helped her prepare, the older woman's eyes suspiciously bright as she fastened the last button. "You're going to make a beautiful queen," Morgana said softly. "More than that, you're going to make a difference in this kingdom. I see it in you." "I hope so." Evelyn touched her reflection, barely recognizing the woman staring back. "I want to honor what Damon has given me. The second chance. The love. Then go to him. He's been pacing since before dawn, nervous as a young wolf at his first hunt." "The Lycan King is nervous?" Morgana smiled. "Love does that to even the strongest among us." When Evelyn walked toward Damon through shafts of early morning light, she saw the exact moment he spotted her. His entire body went still, his expression transforming into something beyond words. Reverence. Wonder. Love so deep it seemed to have roots in the earth itself. She crossed to him on a carpet of fallen leaves, each step bringing her closer to her future. When she reached him, he took her hands, his own trembling slightly. "You're shaking," she whispered, surprised. "Can you blame me?" He lifted her hands to his lips. "I'm marrying the most incredible woman I've ever known. The woman who saved me just as surely as I saved her." The elder who presided over the ceremony spoke the ancient words, binding them in the old way of their people. They exchanged vows beneath a sky painted in shades of rose and gold, promising to protect and cherish, to stand together against whatever storms might come. "I vow to honor you," Damon said, his voice carrying to every witness. "To cherish you in joy and comfort you in sorrow. To challenge you to grow while accepting you as you are. To be your shelter in the storm and your partner in peace. From this day until my last breath and beyond, you are my home." Evelyn's voice shook with emotion as she spoke her own vows. "I vow to stand beside you, to support you in your burdens and celebrate your triumphs, to remind you of your worth when darkness falls, and to share your laughter when joy rises, to love you fiercely and gently with every beat of my heart. You saved me from the darkness, and I vow to be your light for all our days." When Damon kissed her, sealing their bond before gods and wolves alike, the forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Birds fell silent. The wind stilled. In that moment, the world acknowledged what they both knew in their souls. They were meant for this, for each other, forever. The celebration afterward was intimate and joyful. Jackson, Damon's second, stood and raised a glass. To the king who taught us that true strength includes compassion, and to the queen who proved that survival is its own kind of victory. May your love inspire us all. The toast was echoed by everyone present, and Evelyn felt tears of happiness slip down her cheeks. Damon wiped them away with his thumb, then pulled her close. Happy tears this time? The happiest. She looked around at the faces gathered, wolves who weeks ago she would have feared. Now they looked at her with respect, with affection. I never thought I'd have this. Family, belonging. You've always belonged, love. The world just needed time to realize it. As the sun climbed higher, the guests began to depart, offering final congratulations before leaving the newlyweds alone. Damon swept Evelyn into his arms, ignoring her laughing protests. What are you doing? Carrying my wife home. It's tradition. We're already home. Our chambers, then. He grinned down at her. Where I plan to spend the next several hours reminding you exactly why you agreed to marry me. Heat flooded her cheeks. Damon Kingswell, you're incorrigible, and you love it. She did. She loved everything about him. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the rumble of his laugh. The gentleness he showed only to her, paired with the fierce protectiveness he showed the world. He carried her through the castle, taking the stairs 2 at a time despite her weight. When they reached their chambers, he kicked the door shut behind them and set her carefully on her feet. The playfulness faded, replaced by something deeper. He cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheekbones. My wife, my queen, my everything, my husband. She rose on her toes, kissing him softly. My king, my love. They came together like a storm meeting the sea, powerful and inevitable. Damon took his time undressing her, reverent as though unwrapping a sacred gift. Each button revealed more pale skin, and he kissed every inch as it appeared. Her shoulder, the curve of her breast, the hollow of her stomach. You're worshipping me, she gasped. Always. His voice was rough with want. You deserve to be worshipped. When she was finally bare before him, she reached for his clothes, needing to see him, touch him. He stood still, letting her explore, his muscles jumping under her questing fingers. She traced the scars on his chest, the ridges of his abdomen, the strength coiled in every line of his body. You're beautiful, she whispered. Men aren't beautiful. You are. She met his golden gaze, fierce and strong and beautiful. Mine. That word, mine, spoken in her voice, broke his restraint. He lifted her, and she wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to the bed. What followed was both tender and desperate, a claiming that went soul deep. He learned her body anew, finding every place that made her cry out his name. She explored him with hands and lips and teeth, marking him as surely as he'd marked her. When they finally joined, it was with a rightness that brought tears to both their eyes. They moved together, finding a rhythm that was theirs alone, building toward a peak that seemed to exist beyond the physical. I love you, he gasped against her throat. My Evelyn, my mate, my wife. I love you, she cried out as pleasure crashed through her. My Damon, my everything. They fell together, hearts racing in sync, breathing each other's names like prayers. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, sweat slicked and sated, Damon pressed a kiss to her forehead. That was... He paused, searching for words. Transcendent. She laughed, the sound pure joy. That's one way to put it. I have a way with words. You have a way with everything. She traced his jawline. I still can't believe this is real. That I get to keep you. Forever, love. You're stuck with me now. No takebacks. I wouldn't dream of it. Afterward, as they walked hand in hand back toward the castle, Evelyn felt the weight of the past finally lift. She was no longer the broken girl buried in darkness. She was a queen, a mate, a survivor who'd found her strength in the arms of a king who saw her worth when no one else did. Damon stopped suddenly, turning to face her. Have I told you today that I love you? Only twice. She grinned up at him. You're slacking. Can't have that." He pulled her close, his voice dropping to that low rumble that made her knees weak. "I love you, Evelyn Kingswell. I love your strength and your gentleness. I love the way you've transformed my life from a series of battles into something worth fighting for. I love how you make me want to be better. Not because I'm not enough, but because you inspire me to grow." Tears pricked her eyes. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. You gave me back my life. You gave me a home. You gave me love when I'd forgotten what that felt like. Then we're even." He rested his forehead against hers. "Because you did the same for me. I was a king with a crown and no kingdom that mattered. Now I have everything." They stood together in the dawn light, two souls who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk into the light together. The past still held its scars, and the future promised its own challenges. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And that was enough. That was everything. The first year of their marriage brought changes that rippled through the entire kingdom. Evelyn refused to be a passive queen, content to sit on her throne and look decorative. Instead, she threw herself into reform, using her own suffering as a lens through which to see the injustices others faced. She established sanctuaries for Omegas without pacts, safe havens where rank meant nothing and healing was prioritized. She rewrote laws that had allowed wolves like Marcus to exploit those they were meant to protect. And she did it all with Daemon at her side, his strength and authority backing every move she made. The court learned quickly that while their king was feared, their queen was loved. And in her own way, that love was just as powerful. One evening, nearly a year after that fateful night in the darkness, Evelyn stood on the balcony of their chambers, watching the sun set over the kingdom. She felt Daemon's presence before his arms wrapped around her from behind, pulling her back against his chest. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. "How different everything is now. How I used to think happiness was something that happened to other people. And now here I am, living a life I couldn't have dreamed of. Regrets?" She turned in his arms, meeting those golden eyes that still made her heart stutter. "Not a single one. Well, maybe one." "Oh?" His eyebrow arched. "Tell me. I regret that I didn't find you sooner, that we lost years we could have spent together." His expression softened. "We found each other when we were meant to. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. And everything we endured made us who we are, made us appreciate what we have." She traced the line of his jaw. "When did you get so wise?" "I have a very smart mate. I learned from the best. Flatterer, truth-teller." He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "I love you, Evelyn Kingswell. Today, tomorrow, forever." "Forever," she echoed. It was a promise, a vow, a future neither of them had thought they'd have. Below them, the kingdom settled into twilight. Wolves gathered with their families, safe behind strong walls and good laws. Children played without fear. Omegas walked with their heads high, knowing their queen would protect them. And in the highest tower of the castle, a king and queen stood together, two souls who'd been buried in darkness until love dragged them into the light. They'd found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances. They'd survived horrors that should have broken them, and they'd emerged stronger, bound not just by fate, but by choice. This was their story. The Lycan King and the Omega Queen. The warrior and the survivor. The fierce and the gentle. This was their forever. And it was only just beginning. Years passed like water over stones, smooth and sure. Evelyn's sanctuaries spread throughout the territories, each one a beacon of hope for wolves who'd been cast aside. Daemon's reputation evolved from feared conqueror to respected ruler, a king who governed with strength tempered by compassion. They faced challenges, of course. Border disputes, political intrigue, rival packs who tested their resolve. But they faced everything together. A united front that nothing could break. And when their first child was born, a daughter with her mother's gray eyes and her father's black hair, the kingdom celebrated for 7 days straight. Princess Lyanna Kingswell was presented to the realm in a ceremony that brought tears to even the hardest warrior's eyes. Damon held his daughter with the same gentleness he'd shown Evelyn that first night. This massive warrior reduced to reverent awe by a tiny baby. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Just like her mother." Evelyn watched them, her heart so full she thought it might burst. Who would have thought? The girl who was buried in darkness becoming a mother, a queen, a woman who'd not only survived but thrived. "What are you thinking?" Damon asked, catching her expression. "That I'm grateful for every moment, every trial, every tear, because it all led me here, to you, to her, to this life." He reached out his free hand and she took it, their fingers intertwining the way they had 1,000 times before. To this life, he agreed, and all the lives to come, because they had forever. They'd claimed it from the jaws of death and darkness. They'd fought for it, bled for it, believed in it even when belief seemed foolish. And standing there, the three of them bathed in afternoon light, Evelyn understood the truth that had eluded her for so long. She'd never been worthless. She'd never been nothing. She'd been waiting for the moment when a king's instinct would drag him below ground to find her, waiting for a love strong enough to pull her from the darkness into the light. The ceremony hall above might have blazed with golden light and false celebration, but beneath it, in the dark, true love had been born, a love that conquered fear and healed wounds and built kingdoms, a love that would echo through generations. This was their legacy. This was their truth, and it was beautiful. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this beautiful love story. Let us know what you thought of this tale full of emotions and surprises. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and rate this story from 0 to 10 if it touched your heart. And if you enjoyed the plot, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the amazing new stories coming soon. See you next time.